Hey, what's up guys, this is Blaze from Team Stand and Draw, and I have for you a Seal Dragon deck profile. Seal Dragon is hands down one of my favorite decks in the Corduroy clan, and I want to show you mine. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, my grade 0 is the special edition Red Pulse Draco Kid. Look at that handsome bastard. Alright, I tried to play this deck with Conroe and the other Seal Dragon card. I didn't feel them as much as useful as this card has been with me. It's able to get off more of my cross rides more easily. And basically that's it. That's his whole deal. I feel like this is like the best card for this this starter for this deck. Alright, on to our grade 3s, our bosses for the deck. I run 2 Dauntless. I really feel 2 is the right amount for this deck, as it is a Seal Dragon deck, and if you don't have a Vanguard that's a Seal Dragon, some of the cards, they lose their power, and you don't gain anything out of that. And Dauntless is just the boss of himself, put them on top of each other, restanding Vanguard, yada yada, best annoying card of Kagero, blah blah blah. Our next boss is 3 Seal Dragon Blockade. Blockade has to be one of the best overlooked grade 3 Kagero cards in the entire clan. What he does is when he's on Vanguard, your opponent can't intercept. That's about it. It's pretty straightforward. He's really intimidating, and just in mid to late game when your opponent has 2 grade 2s that are just dead battle-wise because they can't intercept, and then they have to force out from their hand, and it really puts them in a bad position. Which brings us to our next card, Blockade Inferno. I'm a big fan of cross rides. I feel when you use such offensive decks such as Kagero, they force out a lot of your hand power. So cross rides make up for that, so you don't have to block so much. And with this deck, you focus on eliminating their rear guards, and you really want to go after their boosters, because that way they can't hit your Vanguard standalone with their 12Ks and their 10K attackers, even though Blockade is a 10K body. But once the cross ride's activated, you're good to go. It makes things a lot more easier for you. His skill, if you don't know, you flip over 2 damage at limit break, and he gains plus 10, and you nuke their field of grade 2s. It's a pretty cool effect after you bring them out from the deck with your grade 2s of this deck, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, field. For grade 2s, I run 4 Hunger Hell Dragon. Typical 10K of the deck. Most important feature of this card that is a Seal Dragon. So when this card is placed on Vanguard, all your other cards that require a Seal Dragon Vanguard, when they get boost when the attack is activated once he's on Vanguard. So yeah, that's basically what he's here for. Plus it's a 10K, very solid body. Next 4 cards, I run 4 Seal Dragon Jacquard. Typical 12K attacker when your Vanguard is a Seal Dragon. Once again, he's a good card to place on the Vanguard, and Jacquard by his side, he becomes a 12K attacker. Next cards, 2 Corduroy. I used to run more of him, and I stopped doing that because I used his effect early on in the game, and it wound up helping out my opponent most of the time when they bring out more grade 2s. So I really feel like 2 is a very comfortable number to run him at. He's especially well when you run him late game, and once again you're knocking out your opponent's grade 1s and drawing out more grade 2s to feed this guy, or eliminate this guy, or make him useless with Blockade's effect. And yeah, that's what he's for. He's a 9K, so 2 is a good number for me. And I run 1 Bellicosity Dragon because use a moderate amount of counter blast in this deck. I feel like 1 is good to when you attack your opponent, you unflip a damage and you get the counter blast you use back from maybe a Red Pulse Draco or a Corduroy. So One is alright. You don't want to ride him essentially because he's not a Seal Dragon, but one is okay to put on the rear guard. It causes a little bit of pressure because your opponent doesn't want you to game at the counter blast you just used. So it's a good card. Okay, on to Great Ones. We're in 4 Bahrs. Bahr is the greatest. Bahr. You know, up until now, I said always use Seal Dragon for your Vanguard, but Bahr is a good card to start off on your Vanguard column. On your Vanguard column, because what can I say? He's Bahr. He's an AK, very solid. Put him behind a cross-ride Hellfire, becomes 21. Put him behind Jacquard, becomes 20. It's just a solid 8K. Nothing more to say about that. 3 flannel shirts. I mean, Seal Dragon flannel. That's what I call them. Simple 10K attacker when your Vanguard is a Seal Dragon. 2 Heatnail Salamander. It's a really good pressure card. Once again, you really just want to weed out his grade 1s, so when you have a cross-ridden Vanguard, it becomes even harder for him to attack you. So, and Bahr is a good pressure because, once again, the opponent doesn't want to lose his grade 1s. 1 Kersey for drop and draw purposes. Aermo for drop and draw purposes. And I run only 3 perfect arts. I used to run 4. I felt like 4 was really cloggy, and you really want to just be really offensive with your opponent. So you don't really need 4 perfect guards. 3 is just fine. You know, you just want to focus on attacking your opponent. Okay, last but not least, the trigger lineup. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I'll run away from you there. 9, 10. 10 critical triggers. I feel like 10 is just really stable. You know, it's a very offensive deck, but not to the point where you need all 12. And I use 2 draw triggers, you know, just to get that extra draw. When a time comes, you might need to give power to your Vanguard for a certain attack. So that's where he comes in. And then you have occasional 4 heal. Yep. So it is. That's my Seal Dragon deck. I've worked really long on this deck. It's one of my favorites. It's like my main Corduroy deck, above Dope. You know, there's some history with this deck here because before this came out, I had kind of lost my direction in where to play Corduroy, and when this came out, I was like, wow, this I found my path, and it's very interesting to see when the new Corduroy comes out. New Corduroy Break Right comes out, because then I upgrade my deck and it'll be fabulous. Alright, I'm saying too much now. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and there'll be much more in the future. Blaze out.